To get the strip started, we're going to go to the strip button and create ourselves a strip with a one blank. We can do as many blanks as we like. Of course, in this case, we're going to do one, and I'm going to modify the strip parameters and very quickly show that we can lay out the direction, we can lay out the number of stations, and this is all a guesstimate. You don't have to know all this up front. You just got to get something started, right? So we're going to automatically create the piercings and the bends. We're going to do a little optimization, so we'll go down here and say, you know what, you can rotate the part as much as you want. I want to see what the best yield you can get. Right now it's 42%. And as you notice as I go through, it's actually nesting between stations. What's the best utilization? Now I gave it freedom. I gave it freedom to do as much movement as it had to. We can also set it to not have any alignment with, let's say, the vertical orientation. So you have a lot of controls to quickly get you in the ballpark. But this would be our best case scenario, 67%. But let's go back to making it vertical. And let's say, okay, I want to constrain it to be, don't change the orientation. Now what's the best? I hit optimize again and it comes back with 60%. So you can see the toolkit is very flexible, very easy to use, and you can always override what it comes back with. So I'm going to set up some margins, the progression. I'm going to even offset the direction of the part in the strip. And then let's let it create it. This is where we take over and let you do the process layout, and we do all the modeling. Okay? The most you need to know how to do in this case is 2D, okay, which we hope you can do. On the left here, you notice we have a strip manager. This lays out the process. I asked for 9 stations. It distributed what it could think of and what it could create automatically amongst those stations. The forming operations are up to me. So I'm going to take these forms that I created, which were those simple embossments, round extrude, and that flange. I'm just going to get it started by dragging it into station 5. And boom, you can see very quickly that we have those active in station 5. Also, I can turn off the stock at any time. So this allows me to not have to do notching before forming or bending. This is all very powerful. A traditional environment of creating a strip, you will typically have to notch before you can do any process layout, which would be very time consuming as you would assume. Let's rearrange the process a little bit more. Let's see that on station 1 there's a piercing 5, and station 2 there's a piercing 4. Let's take piercing 4 and put it into station 1. Boom, instant feedback. So you can see that the system has been, it's revolutionary in its speed. If you're not familiar with 3D, you'll find that out as soon as you try to do it manually with the out-of-box 3D CAD. Alright, so I'm just kind of going through here. It's not really pertinent that I know the process exactly at this point, because as you get into the design more, you're going to make changes. But I want to realign a few things here. For instance, this form that's happening in station 5, I want to put it over here. I want to simply activate here by clicking on it. You notice station 5 goes to blank. Let's take this bend and activate it. But not just the full bend. I want to take that bend and split it up. As we mentioned earlier, we can just take that bend and say create split bend, tell it how many divisions you want it and what angle each division should be, pick OK, and you'll see that we have 3 bends now that we can inactivate any one of them and rearrange the process. Now, when you inactivate something, it doesn't delete it. It's part of the overall list here, but it's in unprocessed. So you can temporarily put it on hold, and then once you're comfortable, you can apply it anywhere. But you won't lose track of specific processes. Same thing goes for springback. You can add springback at any time you want just by clicking on the bend and telling it how much springback. What I'm going to do is put about 10 degrees, watch the bend. The bend will update in this station, but the next station it goes back. So we had a 90-degree bend, and of course it goes to 100, and then it goes back to 90 in the subsequent stations. Alright, what about visualization? I've already kind of showed you. You can turn on and off the stock, you can show the lower material, you can show the upper material. You don't have to look at it as one clunk of material. It's an intelligent strip. The other thing you can do is let's turn off the stock and let's put on superimpose here. Superimpose will allow me to go in and turn that off for a second. Oops, pilot error. Superimpose. There we go. So we can see the before and after of what's happening in that station. And yes, no matter what you rearrange, it will update. So you can run interference detection with that. You can do a number of things. It's not just a visual tool. Alright, let's go back to the full strip and start some notching. To get notching started, it's a 2D process, so you're put into the SolidWorks environment. You have 2 reference stations. You have all the standard tools that you're familiar with: lines, arcs, circles, points, trimming tools. And what we're going to do is do some very primitive snapping here, and I'm going to lay out a basic idea of what my notch should take the material, what material I want to remove. And we do this with just kind of eyeballing where we want to get started. And then we can add dimensions and continue the process. Of course, we've added tools to this environment to make it even easier. So here you see that I've encompassed an area, more or less a polyline. And what I'm going to do is just click on this QuickPress tool called Quick Sketch. Quick Sketch will automatically go through and evaluate which edges are the external edges. I can make sure that I have a very clean profile. Let's put some corner treatments on here while I'm right up here. Corner treatments is another sketch utility. As you can see on the left here, we have the circular, rectangular, all round. These favorites can be saved. So you have different styles, but all you have to do is click on it on that edge, and it will automatically create that geometry very quickly. It will automatically dimension that geometry, and it will support obviously multiple configurations. So if it's a spline to a spline, for instance, it will still do it. We do support all geometry configurations. Alright, so now we have our first notch. Let's apply it to the strip. And notice what happens when you create your notches. You can take that information and just apply it in a specific station, and it will automatically remove that geometry down line. Now we can take notches and create them in batch mode. Let's do that. For instance, I might want to go in here and create a series of notches in a row without jumping in and jumping out. And I want to see my previous notches to reference to. So on the top here, we're just going to put a cutoff punch here, and of course I can dimension between those punches even though they're going to be in different stations. I'm going to click on my Quick Sketch tool. It evaluates what needs to be created and what needs to be trimmed. I can add my corner treatments or just go to the next notch and come back and edit that later. So in this case, what I want to do is just put a pilot in there. I'm skipping dimensioning, but be aware that you can do any type of dimensioning you want. I just want to quickly get some ideas on the screen. So that's all it is for notching, and it's very quick, very simple. What we're going to do is turn off all the 2D references and start applying it to the strip. Notice the stock margin at the end here shows that I have not clearly defined my notching all the way around the part. So that's another indicator or helper. We're going to apply this one to this station. Watch what happens with the margin material. It automatically kind of checks and shows you that you have proper 2D clearance. Now, the other notch would be for our pilot. So let's just grab that and drag that into station 1. And you can see it automatically takes care of all the CAD geometry. Now, if we want to present this to our client, we can do so at any time. First of all, you may want to work with them on the forces. Center of force indicator is available right here on the screen. Also, we have a series of other tools that you can go in and study the forces for a specific region. So real quickly, I'll just lay out a quick sketch of a rectangle emulating maybe some type of stripper area or whatever it might be. And I'm going to take that and do my strip forces, and let's make sure that we have one region. There we go. And we'll create our feature force vectors for just this area. You put the shear strength in, yield strength, and you get your cutting, bending, and resultant center of force and the total magnitude of that area. So you have 2 sketches. They're a series of vectors. You see them on the screen. They're red. If you edit those, you can put user defined in. You can also add, you can tweak the numbers and of course do additional calculations. So I'm just going to go in here and just edit this sketch. And when we edit the sketch and I click on one of these guys, you'll notice that the specific load for that specific notch or that pierce or whatever it might be, it could be a bend, it's going to give you that specific force. Okay. And then finally, the resultant force, the blue vector, is the summary of all those vectors, plus it's at the center of force for that area. So it'll be quite useful and quite quick. You don't have to study and do it all manually. Alright, so let's hide this information. Let's move on to our presentation to our client. Well,